How high can we go? How high can we go? How high can we go? Can we go? How high 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 can we go? Can we go? Can we go? Can we go? Can we go?
So there's been a lot of back and forth debate about the state of black love. You know, people keep walking up to me asking me, what's really going on with black relationships? Why can't black couples just get it together? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly why I believe black relationships have been in trouble. Number one, economics. Now, let me talk to the men for a second here, because economics is very vital in terms of the dynamic between men and women. So first of all, there's just not enough black men that are in economic positions of power. So what I mean by that, there's not enough black male CEOs, there's not enough black male general managers, there's not enough black male presidents. So we aren't in the position to hire and fire each other. And that's important because as men, we got to be the ones to show our women how to get to the bag. We got to be the ones showing our women how to get to some money. And with that comes respect. And that's what's lacking in the dynamic between men and women is respect. Another thing, since we've been in America, our women have seen us beaten down by slavery, systematic racism, social engineering, mass incarceration. So ever since we've touched American soil, they've seen us take losses. I do think that plays a small part in the lack of respect as well. But at the end of the day, fellas, it's our job to help our women, to provide them with the security that they want. Because fellas, if you don't know, a woman's number one goal in life is security. Once they get the security, then they want to build a family. So if we can't help them build security at a high level, they're not going to be as submissive as we want them to be. And that's really the bottom line. The second thing is the boss babe mentality. So now I'm going to talk to the women. The boss babe mentality, that's an issue. We got too many women walking around here listening to Megan Thee Stallion, listening to Cardi B, and they got this pussy run dick mentality. We got too many women walking around like they supposed to be calling the shots, like they supposed to run relationships, and that shit is completely counter to the dynamic of how men and women are supposed to behave. So we got to cut that shit out ASAP. Secondly, too many of our women think it's cool to be disrespectful and they have this bad bitch attitude, this bad bitch persona. That's got to go because any strong man that you deal with is going to demand his respect. And ladies, I'm here to tell you, if you can't respect your man, the relationship ain't going to work. So we got to cut that out too. Another thing, too many of our women have become uncooperative and disagreeable. So if you're dealing with a man with any type of value, any type of substance, the last thing he wants to do is come home to a power struggle. All right. The last thing he wants to deal with is you disagreeing with every little thing just because you want to be right, just because you want to get your way. We got to cut that out as well. And then also masculine traits. Far too many of our women are walking around here talking like men, acting like men. It's literally gotten to the point where some of our women are literally calling each other bro. I've heard the term on the street, bros before hoes. And this is a situation where women are calling themselves bros and calling the men hoes. Ladies, be a lady, put on a dress, cut that shit out. So the last thing I really want to touch on is this I don't need a man ideology. So that's another thing I'm seeing. That shit has to stop. Listen, it's great that women are out here getting an education, making money, living their purpose. But we don't need to hear you walking around talking about how you don't need a man. Get out here, get to the bag, get your education, live your life. But it's bad energy to be walking around talking about how you don't need men. That's unnecessary. So, and I'll tell you this, part of the blame actually goes on the mothers, because you got too many moms out here, too many mothers telling their daughters to get educated, get a career, so you never have to depend on the man. You see, I don't have a problem with the first part of that sentence. Get out here and get your education and be successful. Do what you got to do as a woman to live your life. But it's the second part of that sentence, so you never have to depend on a man. That part of the sentence got to go. That part is toxic. That shit is unnecessary. So mothers need to stop putting that in their daughter's psyche from day one. Before your daughter even leaves the home, she's already looking at men in a negative light. She's already looking at men like there's something she can't work with. We got to stop doing that. So the bottom line is this. If ain't nobody else going to tell you, I'm going to tell you. Our women are out of order, out of pocket, and we got to fix that. And the last thing, black culture. Black culture has turned into a matriarch. So for those who don't know what a matriarchy is, that's when a society or group of people is run by their women. That has to change. Because I'm going to tell you right now, that type of environment is never going to produce strong, masculine men that you yourself desire, and that one day your daughter is going to desire. So at some point, we got to get off of this upside down stuff, and we got to get back to some type of tradition. Because this feminism stuff is not going to produce the type of men that you want. So you're actually losing by embracing feminism. And, I get a lot of women who, they ask me, they say, why can't I find a strong, successful man? Well, no shit, because all of our men are being raised by women. That's a contradiction. Now, me, myself, I was raised in a single parent household, but my mother was smart enough to send me off to my dad, put me around my grandpas, put me around men, put me in sports so I could see what a man looks like. That's important. And let me just say this. Imagine if the shoe was on the other foot. Imagine if 80 to 85% of black little girls, grew up in homes without a mother in the household. So just flip it for a second. Imagine if the little girls didn't have mothers in the household to model after. The quality of women would go down significantly. And that's what's happened to the men. So I'll end it with this. The bottom line is this. In order for any community to reach its full potential, the men must be strong and the men must lead. And that's all I got to say about it.
And you and I were meant to fly like planes up in the sky. The sun is yours and the moon is mine. And I'll fill up my cup and drink this moment like it's wine.
What up, though? What's going on, everybody? My name is Ray Whitlock, and welcome to another episode of Views and Poetry. On my show, I keep it 100, I keep it real, and I'm going to give you my honest thoughts and opinions using the beautiful art form of poetry and spoken word. Today, we'll be talking about the controversial topic of black love, and we'll discuss how things used to be. We'll talk about the effects of systematic racism and the impact that's had on the black family. And we'll also take a look at just how bad things have gotten between black men and black women today. Everybody sit back. You better buckle up tight for this one. It's going to be a hell of a show. Let's go. Back in the day, black men and women understood gender roles and took pride in playing their part. Back in the day, black women didn't associate cooking and cleaning with being a slave. They just played their part. Back then, women understood that good food and a comfortable home was a way to a man's heart. But these days, that mindset been coming up short like Kevin Hart. Back in the day, black men took pride in bringing home the bacon. Wasn't no 50-50 split, they just played the role like Kevin Bacon. He came home from a long day's work, took off his boots and said, "Hey baby, what you making?" She said, "I hope you got room for dessert, check the oven and see what I've been baking." Back then, little boys grew up and became real men. Why? Because it takes a man in the household to convert boys to men. Back then, little girls grew up and wanted to be wives to men. Why? Because they saw men and women do it together and win. They also saw what it took for women to coexist in a household and cooperate with men. And I know everything wasn't peaches and cream back then. Some of the women were unfulfilled. Some of the women got mistreated by men. But when I look at my grandma's life, she had it made back then. My grandpa made sure she had it made in the shade back then. And she didn't think that taking care of home was being a maid back then. This was a time when blacks wasn't so quick to leave each other. This was before the government intervened and convinced our women we no longer need each other. This was before social engineering changed how we perceive each other. So let me explain how the breakdown of the black family really worked. First, they shut down the inner city factory jobs and put black men out of work. Then they introduced the welfare system and told our women that if you got a man in the house, these benefits won't work. Now here comes the crack cocaine being introduced to the same cities where black men no longer had work. As a result, the inner city streets go berserk. Now you got a large population of unemployed black men on the corner pushing that work. And to make matters worse, President Nixon declared a war on drugs to mass incarcerate the same black men who was on the streets pushing that work. You understand how systematic racism works? The truth is, black love ain't been the same ever since. And our relations have become so toxic they need a thorough rinse. We produce movies like Why Did I Get Married? And we support what that represents. No wonder we sleeping alone like we live in tents. Only 1 out of 4 black women will ever get married. And that number's still climbing like a fence. Now that single mother households have taken precedence, more and more of our women have a really hard time relinquishing the role of playing president. So when she meets a black man worthy of being the president, oftentimes we see a power struggle within that residence. When black men left the home, our women were conditioned to do it on their own. Now there's a lack of trust for black men who want to reclaim the throne. We also need to understand why there's a subconscious lack of respect. Black men need to understand that part of your value is your ability to bring home a respectable check. And far too many of our black men still ain't bringing home a respectable check. And trust me, I know discrimination steps a little harder on the black man's neck, but that's why we can't rely on corporate success to command our women's respect. We got to become the business owners and the ones who write the check. We need to be in the positions to hire and fire. Black men need to be in the position to put our women in the positions they desire. Part of our problem is that we have to depend on other cultures to get the outcome we desire. That's kind of like asking another man to buy your woman the things she desires. So when it comes to economic success, black men need to be the black woman's economic supplier. Once we execute that, I guarantee you that black marriage rates go higher because it's a king's responsibility to build an empire. And to my black women, I understand that you deal with a lot. And for the single mothers, I understand that having to overcompensate for the lack of fathers in the household is a lot. But if we want to restore black love and retie the knot, we got to redirect our storylines away from the negativity plot. Because we've been hearing that you don't need a man a lot. And that kind of rhetoric could make a man less likely to shoot his shot. And that type of energy won't help us accomplish squat. We really need to be coming together like a melting pot. Lately, we've been sitting our relationships like we on a boycott. And we got way too many mothers telling their daughters to be independent instead of tying the knot. And that's part of the reason why your heart been stopped up like a blood clot. Far too many of us go into relationships with fears. We getting too caught up in the horror stories and the tears. We also hear about the bad experiences through your parents and your peers. So grab a Q-tip and get that toxic wax out your ears. Because your white, Asian, and Latino counterparts all hit relationship speed bumps, but they know how to keep going without switching gears. A lot of our women wasting their prime years chasing careers. And by the time they ready for love, they pass their prime years. We got to stop putting the foundation of our community in the rears. Our birth rate's been declining. We going out of business like Sears. I'm starting to realize that black men and women no longer understand each other. Both sides just complain about each other. We like to underhand each other. We used to fight for the community, but now we fight to get the upper hand on each other. Black girl magic can't be more important in the overall black community, because at the rate we going, black men and women might as well be two separate communities. Then we all gonna lose because there's strength in numbers. We need unity. We need the whole community. So here's what I wanna see moving forward. I wanna see black love move forward. We can't keep dwelling on the past, we gotta fast forward. I wanna see us treat each other like kings and queens. When I walk past a black woman at the convenience store, I don't want her looking past me with her mug on mean. Black men, we need to understand that our women feel unprotected. Part of the reason they so independent is because they feel neglected. Not to mention dealing with European beauty standards and feeling rejected. Black women, I need you to understand that black men have always been public enemy number one, because sometimes we feel like even you fully don't understand everything that's being done. And trust me, we not looking for no sympathy, not none. But if you took time to understand everything that's being done, you would do your best to empower your son, because we getting attacked with everything under the sun. Black men, our women just want love and security. They tired of dealing with broke men who don't provide security. Black women, men just want cooperation, femininity, and purity. We don't like masculine women who sleep with everybody, calling themselves bosses, living in obscurity. All in all, both men and women have a natural desire to attract love. The question is, are we ready to put the work in to bring back black love? If we are, we can once again rise above, and together we can bring back the powerful union of black love.